This is Two Grumpy People with a discussion that follows the top 10 list, Money Sucks at Walt Disney World. This one's entitled, Pluses, Add-ons, and Extras. Are they worth it?
Okay, so I think number one, and the first one that's going to come to mind that everybody talks about, is the character dining, as opposed to just the luxury dining or whatever.
Yes.
To me, the character dining, it's what all about. It's what Disney's all about. It's why you go, is to meet the characters, see the characters.
And it's not always a little bit more, but sometimes it is, depending on whether you're getting the add-on character package or if it's just built in.
And I mean, a lot of it depends on when and where and so forth, but being able to go to the character dining as opposed to just going to the meet and greets in the park, you get a lot more time. It's a lot more personal. You can take pictures.
It's a lot more leisure.
Yeah,
it's not so much just, okay, you boom, 5 seconds, okay, move on, next person in line.
It's also less threatening to the kids from what I've seen. A lot of times once the kids go through the line, they go up to that big character who's standing there and they're supposed to talk to him, and he's sort of
it's the shock and awe.
It's a little too much stress and it's a little too scary. But when you're in that little family sort of environment, all your family's around you, you're eating, and then the character comes up and joins you.
Walks up and casually.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more comforting and just and it's so much fun. The characters will come over. I know we've had them come over and gesture to us, telling us, yes, take our picture. You know, when you're trying to be polite and no, it's okay. They're like, no, here, get the camera. You know, and they don't talk, of course, but they'll make gestures to you and encourage you, and they'll strike poses. They'll come over and give you a hug.
They'll play around.
They'll make bunny ears behind your head if you're being a Mr. Grumpy Gus. And of course you also get to see the other diners and their experience, which is sometimes is almost as much fun as whatever they do.
I remember one that was it's both funny and kind of sad. One day we were having an experience at Liberty Tree Tavern, one of our favorites, and there was a party over there, a group of people over there, and they had a kid. I think it was his birthday, and Chip and Dale came out, walked over to the poor kid. And he was so startled by this giant chipmunk walking toward him that he just burst out screaming, crying as loud as he could at the top of his lungs. And the poor character was so scared he walked over and came over to us. And we just stood there and took some pictures with him for a while till the kid could calm down. But that's something you don't necessarily expect. That's why more of a restaurant setting is sometimes a little bit better for him than the scary, oh my god, let's walk up in line.
Yep, so definitely the character dining is absolutely worth the plus up. Yeah, you usually have to trade in 2 of your dining
if it becomes a signature experience
for the signature. So obviously you don't want to do it every meal. You'd very quickly go through all of your meal plan, and it would get kind of old after a while, but we usually do 2 or 3 if we can during a 2-week trip or 1-week trip. Obviously you're gonna have less time, but it hasn't gotten old yet.
But with some of the restaurants it's not really an extra, like with Liberty Tree Tavern.
Liberty Tree is just whether you go during the
they just
character
have
dining
scheduled
times or not.
There are certain restaurants like Cinderella's Royal Banquet Hall where if you go the character dining experience becomes an experience, and they have a whole bit that they do, and then they turn it into a signature event, and then you have to pay double
So Liberty
credits.
Tree's our favorite. The Breakfastosaurus is a good one to do.
That is a great one.
If they're doing it again. They moved it over to Pizza.
No, they moved it to Tusker House.
No, Tusker House. They moved it over to Tusker House. I'm not sure if they're going to bring it back to Dinosaur, but
they also have they have in other places too. That's just the one we went to. They have
my sister and brother-in-law took their kids to the one at Camp Mickey Minnie, and they really liked that one. So that might be one that you might want to check out.
And then there's Chef Mickey's over at the Contemporary.
Yes, Chef
Mickey. They do their character breakfast in the morning too.
So
there's several places like that.
Well worth it. At least once per trip, especially if you have children. But character dining is not just for little ones.
No,
as we've said in another broadcast, It was the experience of having the character dining that brought one of our grumpier guests around to enjoying the show a little bit more, got them into the mood. So even teenagers and grown-ups love the interaction with the characters, and it's an opportunity for photos that you won't get any other way. We have so many pictures with characters that came from those experiences.
Yeah. And so something else that I think is definitely worth getting, it's one of my favorite things to do every time we go, because I've been so many times now, is the backstage tours, right, and behind the scenes tours and stuff like that.
And I'm going to say, I absolutely think this is one of the few things that, you're going to spend a lot of money on it.
Especially if you want a good one.
And you usually can't go to more than one per trip, and you have to schedule them in advance. But the backstage tours, if you have someone in your family who is interested in the backstory, it's so worth it. I mean, it's a nice experience outside. It's an adult experience, unlike so many of the other park experiences.
Except for a handful of them. Most of them require you to be minimum 16, and a couple of them require you to be 18.
They don't want to ruin the magic for the little ones, which is good. And it also works out better for those on the tour, because then you're with other grown-ups, and it's kind of a fun grown-up experience. Yeah. Especially if you have teenagers. It'll be there,
Yeah.
All the other activities can seem kind of childish to them, and that's a great opportunity for them to enjoy the magic, but in a little bit more grown-up way.
And if you have the money to go on some of the more expensive and or longer tours, the ones that last a few hours, those ones usually will include a meal at a restaurant as well, that you don't pay for out of pocket. That is part of what you spend on your tour, so that is always
And that's how we discovered the Whispering Canyon.
Yes, we got one of the largest tours, and that one stops at Whispering Canyon, which was very fun.
Yeah. So, I would not recommend them if you don't like walking, obviously.
Yes.
Most of them are walking tours, and some of them are Segway tours, so and if you're not a walker, you probably aren't going to enjoy the Segway either. I wouldn't do it if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to be told how the magic is done, whether it's a magic trick or the magic of Disney. You're probably not going to enjoy them.
Yes, because that's what a lot of them are about.
If you're not one of those people who will have the curiosity about how things are built and how they're made and why they work the way they do, you probably won't find them as entertaining, and therefore it will seem like more of a waste of money, and you'll probably feel regret afterwards.
And as you go in toward the cheaper ones, they talk more about the history of the parks more than anything else. And so if you're not really interested in the history or behind the scenes as far as the stories behind the attractions, then you may not want to do those.
And if it's your very first time in the parks,
don't do it.
It's a waste of money. You have plenty to do in the park without spending more money on a tour.
This is for people who've gone 2 or 3 times already.
Yes. Tours are really for people who have already spent some time in the park, and so they're not going to be missing out on all the stuff. I mean, literally, you can stay in the Disney park system for 2 weeks and still have stuff that you haven't done on the regular itinerary. So,
that having been said, there is one exception to one that I think wouldn't be too bad for someone who hasn't been to the parks too many times. And that's the Behind the Steam Trains tour.
Behind the Scenes Train tour?
Behind the Steam Trains tour, I believe is what they call it.
Okay.
It's where they take you to where they set up the Magic Kingdom's train, and then you get to take a couple of circles around the track before the park opens. And of course you get to go.
That is an awesome.
And it's fairly cheap. It's one of the cheapest ones they have.
That is a really awesome one for anybody who really loves to take photos, because it's a great photo opportunity.
Almost all of these tours that we're talking about give you great photo spots, because you get to go into a couple of the parks before they open.
Yes, so you'll be able to take unobstructed views of a lot of the stuff that you usually have 2 tons of people around. And it would also be great, of course, if somebody was really into trains.
Yes.
So, but again, I would say if that was your very first time in the park, unless you're a huge photo buff or a huge train buff, I wouldn't spend any extra money on a tour.
No.
I'd just go to the park. Unless you're going to be there an inordinately long period of time.
But that one would be a good one for like a second time, whereas most of them would be better on your third or fourth or fifth time.
Absolutely. It's not going to reveal any real magic. It's just
a train.
Nice train tour.
And the other quick little note on those before we go on to our next thing on the list is that the cheaper ones will not include park admission to the parks themselves. So they're extra. And then some of the more expensive ones, for those of you that are buying per day tickets,
yes.
If you take the more expensive tours on those days, you won't need a park ticket on that day because it'll be included.
Yeah.
Just something to think about while you're planning for those.
Right.
To make it that much more of a value for you.
Well, we were talking on the other list about whether the fridge in the room is a money suck or whether it's value added. And this is a big, for us, usually it's a value added, but it depends. If you're going to be there for a week or more, I would say it's a value. If you're in the value hotel, this is not, if you're in one of the nicer hotels, you're automatically going to have a fridge in your room. And it's a huge value added.
If you're in Pop Century, Art of Animation, or
any of the value resorts, right? You're gonna have to pay extra to have it rented. Is it worth it or not? Again, if you're gonna be there for a week or more, yes, because on that first day when you get there, first or second day, you're gonna want to go to town or go to the gas station, buy yourself some soft drinks, some milk, fruit, maybe some lunch meat. Put it in there. You can keep it cold. Also, if you have someone in the group who has medication, as we did a couple of times, they can keep their medication in there. But baby bottles, so forth. It's a huge money saver.
As far as medication goes, and I think as far as baby bottles go, should you not have the money to spend, if you're that tight, you can give them to the check-in desk, and they will be able to hold medication for you in a chilled environment, so you don't have to rely on renting the fridge if you're that strapped.
Yeah, or if you're not going to be there more than a couple days, because some people only stay for a day or two.
True.
So it just depends on what your package is, what you're planning to do while you're there. But then you have to think about, it's a huge convenience. When you come back from the park very late at night, you're exhausted, you can either order that same pizza from room service, or you can make yourself a sandwich or grab a piece of fruit that you already have.
Here's what makes it a value
for me.
Great
milk for breakfast in the morning.
That's great too. What makes it a value for me is being able to bring food to your room that you've gotten from one of the hotel restaurants, or that pizza that you ordered. You can't really keep that a couple of days.
Yes.
You can stick it in the fridge, and then you'll be able to keep it a couple extra days without it going bad on you. And so, to me, that alone makes it a value.
Yeah, because, they offer dessert with every meal. And quite often, the meals are large enough that you really don't want the dessert then. And several times what I did was I got as my dessert like a cheesecake or a Danish or something, put it in the fridge, next morning,
it was
breakfast before I go, and I don't have to stop anywhere and get the breakfast or use the breakfast coupon or whatever.
Yeah, and it can save you money in that respect. And for me, that alone makes it a value, being able to save leftovers.
And then if you have someone like we did who has to stay in the room quite frequently because they don't feel well,
then they have something that they can keep in the fridge and keep.
And they don't have to keep running back down, all the way downstairs.
All the way to the other...
Across the lawn, and over the bridge.
Through the woods.
Depending on what hotel you're staying at, sometimes you're quite a distance from the front desk. So.
Yes.
So that's one that we say it is worth the money, but with the proviso. You have to fit it to your circumstances. And we were there one year at Thanksgiving, and we had a whole Thanksgiving dinner that we bought from downtown and brought, so it was well worth the money for a fridge. We almost couldn't fit all that in that little fridge.
Now the next thing is they need to let you borrow a microwave, because then you don't have to walk all the way down to the microwave all your food.
To use the microwave, yeah.
But,
That's the next thing.
That's the next thing.
So the next one is the fireworks dessert party.
Okay, there's actually a couple of those that they have. They've got one that's for Magic Kingdom, so you can watch witches.
And that's the one we did.
That's the one we did. The other one that I would love to do sometime soon is the one they do for Phantasmic.
Yes.
Which is even better. These little dessert parties, they're not at expense. You have to order them in advance, like you make your reservations for your meals. It's one you have to order way in advance. It's a little bit extra, but it is worth it. It is a great party. You go in, they get you in, I think about half an hour to an hour before the fireworks starts. It's a little roped off area off to the side, and they have these big buffet tables filled with just about any kind of snack you could imagine. well.
And the dessert party, it's desserts.
Well,
there
it's
aren't any
snacks.
other. Yeah.
To me, they're snacks, some of them, because they're not really what I'd call dessert, but you know. Anything from a donut to a creme brulee to cookies to cakes to coffee, all kinds of things. As well as drinks. They have juices, milk, tea, water, coffee, hot cocoa. So there's plenty there to choose from. Fruit usually as well. And then you get all that stuff, and then you can go sit at your table and watch the fireworks or whatever. And it's great. It's definitely, to me, a great value. If you really, especially if you really want to have a good seat for the show.
Yeah. And again, for us, the reason it makes it such a value, and a lot of people didn't think it was such a great value. They weren't happy with the experience. So you have to understand what you're getting and why you're getting it. For us, what makes it such a huge value is you have a seated area reserved for you to watch the entire Wishes show. And it is a beautiful view. You can see the entire castle completely lit and the fireworks perfectly. So you can set up your little camera tripod, get pictures before it starts when it's just the castle lit up. You can pose with your family or your significant other and get a picture from the castle. So it's a very comfortable, very nice position to do that. So if you're into taking the photographs, or if you've never seen the Wishes show before, what a great way to watch it for the first time. You're not out there bumping elbows with the crowd. You're not having your view blocked at all, and you can sit comfortably and have your little dessert party.
To me, it's the ability to have a nice, comfortable place to sit for the show. Because there's very few places to sit where you can still see the show.
Yeah.
There is benches here and there and everywhere, but they get filled up quick because there's only a handful.
Yeah, people start claiming those things like an hour to 2 hours before
at least
the show
2 hours
starts. Yeah, there's just no place left anymore, and you're out of the crush of the crowd. It's very comfortable, so that it's great for that. Now, we saw a lot of people there with young kids, and I don't think they really understood what they were spending the money for.
Having young kids.
Yeah, it's great. It's all what kid doesn't love a bunch of desserts and milk and so forth. But kids really don't want to sit for an hour to 2 hours because you're waiting a half hour before the thing even starts. We had time to watch the entire electric parade go by, and even before the electric parade started, we were there. Yes. So most kids aren't really going to want to wait that long. You're going to hype them up on tons of sugar.
So it's not really good for little kids. Teenagers and up, we would recommend.
Yeah. Someone who's going to enjoy sitting quietly and watching the beautiful show and get the most out of it. So it's great for couples, it's great for older folks, it's great for people who are huge fans of Disney, for people who are huge fans of photography, or who want to get that one great shot in front of the castle without all the people blocking it and so forth. So know what you're getting.
Views.
If those are the things that you want, then it's more than worth it. If what you're looking for is an actual party or tea party atmosphere or something, which a lot of people voiced that's what they thought it was going to be, and it was a disappointment to them.
Yeah, they thought it was going to actually be a party that was going to be going on during the fireworks. No, it's more of a, here's some desserts, now sit and watch the fireworks.
Sit quietly. And
it's usually about 50 people in the group. Mm-hmm. So just so you know about how many people there'll be around you in that little area. Those of you who still don't think it's a good idea, don't think it's a value, if you want to have the same comfort, what I've done in a few other times that we went and we didn't do the dessert party is if you get there early, again it fills up quick, is to go to the upstairs part of the train station.
Yeah.
If you go outside of the train station, there's a nice balcony and there's tables and chairs there. And if you go there about an hour beforehand, there's usually not too many people there.
Yeah.
And that is usually an hour before the parade starts, not an hour before the fireworks, because that's a great view for the parade. Even better.
Yeah, it's an even better view of the parade than
because the fireworks one is not a great view for the parade, just for the fireworks.
Right.
But the train station, you are within feet of the floats, and you're at eye level with all of, well, actually above.
But that's why it fills up so quickly. So
yes.
you have to be willing to sit there for a while and wait.
Yes.
And it's not shaded, unlike.
But it's usually getting pretty dark by the
time. Yeah, it's
time.
usually getting cool by then.
So it's not too bad. But that's just another thought.
And then is one of our favorites that we try. We've only done it 1 year, and I want to do it. I want to go back now that I've done it once. The Boo to Use.
Definitely. It's one of the after-hours events that happens in the fall. It's usually starts the last week of August, and it's all of September and all of October. I think sometimes they do it about the first week in November as well, but that's iffy. Usually by then they've switched to Christmas. So, but it is something that is fun. It's after hours. It's usually $35 or $45 a person. And you get a special fireworks show. You get a special parade that you won't see during the regular day. As well as there's trick-or-treating. And you can come in dressed in costume and you won't look kind of silly.
It kicks off with the parade. That's what kicks off. So by then, all the other guests have been escorted out. A few other people have joined you because they only came to the Boo to You. We did the part first and then just stayed for the Boo to You, and they give you like a wristband so
that you don't have to leave.
And you gather on Main Street, and the Boo to You parade kicks off the festivities.
Yep.
And they really do that parade right. I mean, they do ghosts on the walls and in the windows behind in all the buildings. They light up the castle. So the whole park is in on the festivities. They have a great song that they perform specifically for that parade, which is the Boo to You theme song.
They have the different floats, which more or less talk about different chunks of the park. They have one that's themed just to pirates, one that's themed to the villains, which is fun because you don't see too many villains. So Halloween's a great time to get, if you love Disney villains,
you'll see
Halloween's a great time to go to the parks.
You'll see characters that you almost never see otherwise. You see Ursula, Captain Hook.
You get to see the bad guy from Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And a few other people that are not quite as common.
But it's a great parade. They have the We Love the Grave Diggers with their shovel dance and creating sparks. I thought that was awesome.
That is really, really cool.
The barn. Well, they probably aren't going to do the barn anymore since they no longer have that theme for Fantasyland. So I'm thinking this year is probably a slightly different parade.
It's probably going to be a little bit more of a princess handled. I'll have to look up the video for this year's parade to see what it's like.
Because the little cartoon area isn't themed for the
Fantasyland is not the Toontown Fair isn't a Toontown Fair anymore. It's now more of a circus theme, so they'll probably do a little bit more of a Dumbo circus theme to it.
So now we're gonna have to look that up and see if anybody has some video out there of.
Probably do. It's all the way October 20th when we're recording this. So.
They also sold merchandise specifically for Boo to You. I know we bought a balloon and some other things that were specifically themed. They put up decorations, of course. You know that. I think one of the funnest things is going through the Haunted Mansion and the Pirates of the Caribbean during the Halloween festivities. It's just so much more fun.
It's worth it. And then the trick-or-treating. That is phenomenal.
Especially for the little kids. I mean, there they are in their costume and they get to go trick-or-treating
in Disney World. That is just amazingly
cool. And they
cool.
give away a lot of candy. I mean, they're not chintzy with the candy at all. We didn't even hit all the spots to trick-or-treat.
No, we only hit a handful. We only did a little bit of it.
She got a pretty good amount, given the amount of time that we were trick-or-treating.
Yeah. And then there's some cool little decorations and stuff that are only out as part of the Boo to You as well. Yeah. Most of the decorations you see during the day, but there's a few they put out just for that. Because they're blocking off certain areas that are not open.
Yeah, like the big giant, the warthog.
Timon and Pumbaa, the giant Timon and Pumbaa they had set up blocking the Jungle Cruise.
I love the ghost when they put the ghost on the castle. And
yes, there's ghosts and stuff. And there's all kinds of neat things.
Sometimes some of the rides, the music changes up as they switch over to the nighttime Halloween theme. So listen carefully. You'll hear like the same music, but it's slightly different for a Halloween theme.
As well as the background audio in all of the park.
Throughout the park, it becomes a Halloween theme.
And you'll hear a lot more of the Haunted Mansion theme playing.
Yeah, which we love. We love the Haunted Mansion.
Walking in, would you like to join our jamboree? When you're walking into the park, that's definitely different.
Yeah, so it's a blast. And it's short. It's not short. It's
a couple hours.
Yeah, but it feels pretty short. So
it's definitely worth it for, you know.
Yeah, even if you want to spend a day at a different park and then just come and do the Bougie.
Yeah, a lot of people like to do Animal Kingdom during the day because they close so early. And then you have time to go home, have something to eat, change into your costume, and then go back for the party.
And a lot of people do the costume, not just the kids. A lot of grown-ups are dressing up, too. Yep. So that's a lot of fun to see that. I mean, people really get into the spirit of it. And it's a happy sort of Halloween. It's not a scary Halloween.
That's why it's part of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween is the official title for that event.
Yeah.
So it's Not So Scary Halloween Party. That's the whole point of it. It's light and fun. This isn't Halloween Horror Nights like Universal has.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. So don't come there expecting to be horrified. Don't expect there to be ghouls jumping out of you and grabbing you like they do at Universal.
No, it's just a night for the Disney villains to celebrate, and that's about it.
Okay. So another thing that is well worth it is
my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Which is to stay on property.
Yeah. Because in a way, that's not even. Sometimes it can actually be cheaper than staying off property. Usually not so much.
There's a lot of people out there saying, but you can stay off property for $30 a night.
Yes.
The minimum at Disney is like $70 or $80. Yes. But you have to think about what comes with that. Staying off property means you either have to drive or take whatever vehicle they have to and from the property.
You have to really understand how huge those parking lots are. You have to dedicate a good 30 to 45 minutes
of your entire day
just for driving and parking, and then getting from the parking lot to and then you have to do the same in reverse going home. So sometimes that's convenient and worth it, but quite often you'd rather just get on the bus.
On top of this, here comes another expense now. If you're driving yourself to each park every day, you're going to be spending another, was it $15 now, I think,
to park,
just to park in the parking lot for the day.
And I mean, there's different ones you can get in different parking lots and pay a little more, but
and if you have an annual pass, you can save
most
a little
people
bit
are going to end up parking quite a distance from.
Because they're going to park in the regular one, they're going to be parking in Giraffe
and
or
you
whatever.
would be surprised just how early people show up just to park.
When we
they
were
show up an hour or two before the park even opens just to park.
Yes, and when we were going for one of our backstage tours, we had to show up an hour early. And we did, and it was already 4, 5, 6 rows back before they even started it, before we could even get a spot. So, you know, and then say you've got one that has their own shuttle. Then you're limited to their shuttle, which usually is limiting you to either having a very strict regiment of when you go and come back, which is usually only 1 or 2 times a day that you can pick from. And you're limited on where you're being dropped off and picked up at. Most of them only pick you up and drop you off at the Transportation and Ticket Center, which is the Magic Kingdom's parking lot. And that's it.
The very first time we went, we stayed in an off-property hotel because I got an awesome deal. That was right after 911, and they were desperate to fill rooms, so we we benefited from a tragedy. Shame on us, but it worked out really well. And they had a shuttle like that. They used one of the commercial shuttles in town that picked up at several hotels.
That's my other
So you had to get up
with it.
early in the morning to take the bus, and then come back. So the bus only ran like twice a day. So if you didn't catch it, you were out of luck. I mean, it was okay because we were only there for 3 days, and we got up extra early and stayed until closing every night to get the most out of those 3 days. But I wouldn't choose to do that again because, especially as I get older, that's exhausting. That is really exhausting, getting up that early, staying up that late, and doing it day after day. No. I would not choose to do it again.
Having to sit there and ride the bus where you have to stop at 4 or 5 different hotels across the downtown Kissimmee area.
Now, they're good shuttle service, and it's worthwhile, but again, if you're going to be there for very long, it's well worth your while to be on property. Also, all the on-property hotels, even the value hotels, have amenities that a lot of lower cost hotels don't have. Now, again, if you're not going to be there a lot of days, you might not really care so much what your hotel is like, and sometimes that's me. I'm at a hotel, as long as I have a comfortable bed and a TV, I'm good. But if you're going to be there for a week or going on a week, you're probably going to want things like a swimming pool, like air conditioning that you can control in your own room. cable television, high-speed internet. All these things are either free or available at even the value hotels at Disney. Off-property, you got to check. They may or may not be.
Most of them have the Wi-Fi, but not always.
Yeah, not always. So check in advance.
And Disney is even rolling out Wi-Fi in theirs, which is something they didn't have until recently, but
Yes,
they're rolling it out in all of their
make you-
resorts.
They used to make you pay quite nicely for your internet at
Well, they
value
still
resorts.
make you pay for it. It's still not free yet.
Oh man, but the higher hotels have it free, right?
Yeah, the higher ones have it free, but the value ones still
that's something
$10 a day.
they need to.
And the other thing is, well, again,
And they have all kinds of they also have other amenities available on
as well.
Disney
I mean,
property.
just the theming alone for some people would be worth it.
Now, that's us. That's me. I find it worth it to stay on property just because it continues the experience. You're not breaking the spell at any time.
Yeah.
The hotel is
You're
beautiful.
not leaving a magical
well-maintained.
world going back to dreariness every day.
Yeah. So for me, when I went, because we save for up to 2 to 3 years every time we go, and then we stay for a nice long period, for us, it's well worth it. If you're making a shorter trip or you go more often, you may say, it's not really that magical. I don't really need to stay in a Disney hotel.
Yes. Another thing to think about is another amenity that's a lot of off-site hotels have, but in my opinion, it's not as well-rounded, is the transportation between the airport and their resorts.
I mean, some of them will do. Some hotels really go out of their way for their people, and
And it
some
depends.
don't.
And it depends on who's running the desk.
And that's a big part of the problem is with the off-sites. Isn't that they're bad, it's that you don't always know what you're getting.
Yes.
It's not necessarily reliable.
Not as uniform.
Yeah. So again, I'm nothing sad about the off-site hotels, and if you're trying to go to Disney on a budget, that's one big way to save a lot of money.
Yes.
But you're giving up a lot of little extras.
And here's another
amenities.
thing. It was one that we brought up on a list a while back, talking about things that annoy us from people at the parks. Is when you're shopping for souvenirs, you can actually say, "Oh, I want this, this, and this," and let them know which resort you're staying at, and they'll just send it to the resort. You don't have to carry the stuff home with you or carry it back to your room. You can pick it up at any time during the day. Tell them which resort you're staying at. They'll send it to you, and at the end of the day,
that's very
when you go
handy.
back to your room, you can go and pick up your items.
Yeah, that's very handy. We did use that one on the last trip or the one before that, because we had bought a couple of fairly decent sized items and some photos in the park.
It was when we were at Port Orleans, so it was a couple of years back.
So yeah, it was the time before last.
Yeah.
And what was really convenient about that is when you buy the photos, if you're in the parks, you might get wet, you're sitting down, you're standing up, you ride rides, and your photos might get ruined. And so it's really convenient. You say, I'll pick it up.
And with the ride photos, it's not like something that, I'll just grab it at the end of the day. You kind of have to buy it right then. You can't, you might be able, if you can remember the number, be able to pick it up later, but it's not always a guarantee.
Yeah, so.
And, being able to just say, hey, I'd like this sent to my room, and they'll send it to you.
It's really convenient service. I enjoyed that part of it.
Very.
And you get the extra magic hours, which for a lot of people is not that big. Especially as I get older and I've been there a few times, I'm not really wanting to stay 14 hours in the park anyway. I'll go a little bit later and come home a little bit early to avoid the crush. However, if you're dealing with family members and coordinating schedules and all that, sometimes the extra magic hours is a nice
you get
little
anywhere
bonus.
from an hour to 4 extra hours. Sometimes in Magic Kingdom up to 6 extra
And if you
hours.
plan your trip carefully, you do all the extra magic hours on all the parks. It really works out. So there are lots of reasons to stay on property. I mean, you can get the refillable mugs. You can shop Disney merchandise right there in the hotel.
There's the 15 to 20 minute bus loop that runs continuous throughout the day.
They
Makes it
have
convenient.
restaurants, so you can use your meal ticket. You can get the package deal through Disney, so you can get the meal plan, and the meal plan is a real budget saver.
And unlike Disneyland, you have to be staying on property to get the meal plan.
The meal plan, yeah, definitely think staying on property is well worth it.
Yeah. You can find just as many reasons to stay off property, but
and there's so
to
many
us,
things
it's
to
worth
do
it.
on the properties. I mean, depending, of course, on the hotel you stay at and stuff. But I mean, at Port Orleans, we rented a skidoo, and that was a blast. Riding around on that little thing. We'd never ridden one before, but it was fun. They have little bike rentals that you could get. They have video games. course, they have the laundromats right there. Most of them have little poolside bars and things like that.
Well, they have these elaborately themed pools just at the resorts too, especially like at when we were at Port Orleans. They had the old bayou themed area.
Yeah, and at Caribbean Beach they have the Spanish pirate fort
set up, and so you get some really elaborate themes that you may not get elsewhere.
Yeah, really nice on property.
To make
even
it
the
worthwhile
value
staying,
resorts are resorts. They're not just hotels. I mean, they have, even when we stayed at Pop Century many times because it is one of the value resorts.
That's our favorite one.
There are multiple pools and little sprinklers, and there's video games, and there's a nice place to shop for merchandise, and the theming, the giant icon theming, and it's just, you don't get that when you stay at, Holiday Inn.
No.
You get a continental breakfast, and that's about it.
Which is like an old nasty cheese Danish and a bagel.
So, okay, we talked enough about that.
Yeah, so we went on for a while. So another thing that we
just mentioned, the ski-doo or boat rental
is definitely worth it.
This is why I would put it on the list. Because you cannot take those pictures any other way.
True.
Some of the photos that if you go out on that lake and you can get angles and views of when we were at the Port Orleans, you could boat right into the downtown Disney area. Almost, you can't go all the way to the docks. You're restricted from going all the way over there, but almost to the docks. So you can get a 360 panoramic view of the water side of downtown Disney. I mean, just that paid for the cost of the ski-doo rental. And then you got, several hours entertainment.
You may be able to find some of those shots taking their ferries, but in the ski-doo or your own boat that you're renting, you can go slow.
Yeah, you can take your time. You can speed to what you want to take a picture of and stop, take the picture,
and then continue on.
We also used it to tour a couple of the other
resorts
so we could,
riverfront.
Maybe I want to go here, maybe I don't.
And plus, there's a few little hidden things here and there that you won't see anywhere else because they only set it up just to.
The signs they had at the golf course were kind of funny.
Yep.
The lighthouse that we got a picture of was really nice. So.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of little sites. Several hours entertainment for. I mean, when we did it, there was no time limit on. I've heard that they're thinking of putting in a time limit for how long. But when we did it, you paid one fee and you got it for as long as you got it. The refillable mugs. I've heard some people saying that those just really aren't that good a value.
There used to be a little bit better one, in my opinion, because they used to have the larger ones.
Yeah.
But I still think they are. They're, they hold about 16 ounces of drink. And while it may be enough for some people and too much and not enough for others, it's still good because without getting a meal, you could just refill your glass.
Yeah, if you're someone like me who wants something to drink pretty much all the time, if you're going to spend, I guess this is another one of those things where it depends on how much time you're going to be in the hotel. If you're going to be there for 2 or 3 days, it probably isn't going to pay out for you because the cost of the cup, you could have just bought the sodas and just been done with it.
Think about every time you
start adding up those
down
sodas
to the restaurant, the food court down there in your hotel, or in your resort rather. If you go and get the breakfast or the lunch or the dinner at that, you could just take that cup with you and you don't got to pay the extra $2 each time. And so that saves you right there every time.
Every time when you go to leave the park, you get on the bus, and a lot of the hotels, you're going through the lobby area anyway to get to the bus. So you might as well stop and get your drink while you're sitting there waiting for the bus. And you're not tempted to hit that vending machine for $2 a pop. You have that refillable cup, maybe that'll reduce.
And plus,
that
gives you a cup while you're in the park. If you want to pour your water into it or whatever else.
Yes, you can use it for water. And what we did is, if you carry your little fanny pack, which a lot of us do, or your backpack, you can just clip it to the strap, and because they have the mug type handle, so that you don't have to actually carry it around all the time.
And then on top of everything else, it becomes a great little souvenir when you die.
Exactly. So then that's again what we were talking about with the souvenirs, where
the ones
instead
you don't
of buying
necessarily
specific
recognize
souvenirs,
as a souvenir.
Yeah, and that cup is gonna have the name. Well, now they don't do them individually anymore.
It's a little bit more just whatever the year is. It's
that's
more
kind
themed.
of a boo.
When we first were going and we went to Pop Century all the time, every resort had their own
right.
theme
So it
on
reminded you of the hotel that you stayed at. But at least it has the year and everything, so it'll remind you of the year, your vacation that you went to Disney World. Even if you only use it 3 or 4 times, it's pretty much paid for itself.
Yeah, because it's, like I said, it's about $10 last time we went. And so that's 5 refills and you've paid for it.
Yeah. Characters in flight.
Definitely, it's one of those wonderful downtown Disney extras.
It's not that expensive compared to so many other
It's very cheap
extras.
compared to almost everything else. How much was it when we went?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. I don't remember. I know it was probably $20 for the both of us.
Something like
maybe.
that. Maybe 25 for the both of us, I think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't very much. But compared to any other
Where it's
extra
usually
you can
$35
add on,
a person, it was 25 for the two, so that's still not good.
it's again, you get that panoramic 360 view downtown, but you're up in the air, you're above everything, so you can get shots that you could not possibly get. In fact, when I was making one of these videos the other day, I was looking for a picture of a particular restaurant, and I couldn't find hardly any online, and I discovered that we had taken a picture of it without knowing it. I mean, you can't really, it's up in the air, so it's the roof line, and I had to kind of like look on the map to see it. I'm like, yeah, that's actually it. And it's kind of amazing that you can see what we thought was a really small, comparatively small restaurant. When you look at the building, and it's huge, so it's kind of fun to get that different perspective on things.
Plus, as long as it's a clear day, you can see clear across to the different parks and see some of the large icons. So you get some really cool distance shots of the horizon of Disney World.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's a very smooth ride. It's not scary at all. And it's pretty decently long. We had plenty of time to take all the pictures we wanted. Ask the pilot of the balloon a few questions. And
Yep.
yeah, it was
You hang up there for a good 5-10 minutes at least.
Yeah, it's well worth it. So I would definitely do that one if I were you. And if I get the chance when we go back, I want to do it at night so we can see the fireworks. Like the pilot advised. He's the one that suggested it. He said, yeah, you've got to do it at night and watch the fireworks.
Yep.
The downtown dine-in theater. That's new.
Yeah, it's brand new.
I mean, I usually want to go to a theater once because I very rarely go to movies anymore. So during my vacation is one of the few times when I indulge in going to the movies. I usually want to go at least once, which is kind of weird. People think, well, you're on Disney vacation, you're going to see a movie, but I don't do it very often.
So when she does it, she wants to spend extra money.
I want to go and have fun. And
this is something they remodeled, part of their AMC 24 theaters that's down there, to include a restaurant portion so that you now can dine in while you watch your movie.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have the dine-in experience in downtown anyway, might as well do it while catching a movie. And I like to do 2 things at once anyway, so.
Yes. Anything where she can do 3, 4, 5 things at once, she's happy.
And since we love the drive-in restaurant, the sci-fi dine-in theater, it's kind of like, hey, it's like a grown-up version of that, so it's kind of fun.
And you're not limited to watching the same cartoons over and over.
So it's a value if you're going to go see a movie anyway and get a dinner anyway. I mean, it's not something that I would particularly put on my itinerary, but, you know. If
you're going to go have dinner and a movie anyways while you're there,
yeah,
go ahead and combine them. Different experience that you won't always find around the country. They're starting to pop up, but they're still very few.
I think they're doing it at Universal now too, aren't they?
I have no clue.
I'm not sure. Probably. They always copy each other. And then they swear they don't. I thought of it on my own. Of course you did.
Yes. Disney Quest, to me, is more of a value than going to those arcades in your resort. Because those things are jacked up prices ridiculously. And if you go to Disney Quest, it's essentially what it is the world's largest arcade. And none of them are pay to play. They're all rigged so that they're all free to play. It's the same kind of arcade machines you'll find anywhere, plus some extra stuff you won't find anywhere else. It's $35 a person if you're buying it at the gate or at the door. Very unique experience. It's all inside this big building. 5 stories, I believe, with wall-to-wall games. There's a restaurant in there and a gift shop so that you can still have the same Disney experience you'd have anywhere else. Like I said, easy to spend all day. And if you got someone in there that loves arcades, love video games, there's somewhere you can send them for the entire day and they'll be happy.
And what makes it a value to me is that I like to spend time just walking around through the downtown area, shopping, browsing, window shopping, maybe buy a little snack here or there, and I can spend a lot of time doing that. And if most teenagers don't really enjoy doing that, a lot of guys don't like doing that, so you can separate your party, and those who are like old fogies like me who just like to walk and breeze and enjoy the scenery can do that in peace, while they can go and do something that they really enjoy. And you could just meet up. It
is also one of the parts, whether or not you realize this, is part of the water park and more option on your Disney ticket or your annual pass. It is under that category. It is included if you have that option enabled on your tickets.
If you have the option, you should definitely use it.
Yeah.
So I guess we could do this one as the last one. And it's something, well, it's not really new. They've been doing it for a while, but they've improved it, and that's the reserve seating for Illumination.
Yes.
Every time we go to see Illuminations, this is something that concerns us. There is no seating for Illumination. This is
one of the last ones that hadn't had a really decent reserve seating, because all the other ones that have fireworks have had it. Wishes has it. Phantasmic has had it since it started, and now finally Illuminations has decent reserve seating options.
I think it's even more of a value for Illuminations than for any of those others, because there just is no seating in the World Showcase, and it's all around in that circle. So
it's all around
limited space, limited standing. To get a good view is difficult. Just for that reason alone, just to have a nice, convenient place to sit, get a really good view, and be comfortable while you watch it.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly a short show, so it's
a good long while. Stand through. And it's not likely you're going to be doing much else during the show anyways.
Yeah, because there's not really anything else to do.
Everything's shut down by the time that show starts.
Yeah, it's the last thing, and then the evening. Then once the show's over, everybody, filters out of the park. So I want to do it, and they hold it at the new Mexican restaurant that they just refurbished. They took the old small cafe and they refurbished it, and there's a whole dining area back there that's been added. So
yes, there is a couple other spots as well, but
that's the main.
Yeah.
There's a couple others too, but any package that you can get that gives you free seating for, I think the Rose and Crown does it, don't they?
Yep.
Yes.
Rose and Crown,
I would love to do that one too.
The French restaurant does it.
Oh, I didn't know the French restaurant.
Yeah, because there's a pavilion over there.
Okay, so there you go. There's 3 options. Definitely take advantage of one of those if you can. I think they book up pretty early though.
Yeah.
You have to make your reservations well in advance. That makes it kind of a pain if you're one of those people who have to travel on somebody else's schedule.
But definitely worth it if you want.
This has been part 2 of Two Grumpy People's Money Sucks, and this was the top 10 list of things that we thought were worth it. Join us next week when we talk about the things that are not worth it.
Subscribe. It's free. Subscribe. It's free. It's free. Subscribe. It's free. Subscribe. 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 It's free. It's free.